The world is a noisy place. Every day we're surrounded by rush hour traffic, obnoxious neighbors, countless planes zipping by overhead. It seems impossible to get any peace and quiet in the modern world. In one of my previous videos, we learned about the loudest sound ever made. But what if you wanted to be as removed from sound as you could possibly be? Believe it or not, there are still some places on Earth that are so quiet, all you'll be able to hear is your own ears ringing. In this video, we're going to look at 5 of the absolute quietest places on the planet. The first stop on our silent journey is the Hoh Rainforest, part of Olympic National Park in Washington. This massive forest consists of 922,000 acres of unspoiled natural beauty, with the smallest number of roads in the continental US. The Hoh Valley is home to what's called 1 square inch of silence. This area, marked by a small red stone, is part of a project to encourage people to listen to their surroundings. While this is supposedly the quietest natural place in the country, you'll still hear the natural ambience of the breeze, leaves rustling, and forest animals. According to one commercial pilot, many airlines have voluntarily rerouted flights to avoid creating noise pollution at the square inch of silence. For those of us who just want a break from the sounds of cars, planes, and other man-made distractions, Olympic National Park is the perfect getaway. Not quiet enough? Let's take a look at the Quietest Nature Reserve in Russia. This remote, fiercely breathtaking landscape is known as the Land of Fire and Ice, not because of any relation to Game of Thrones, but because of its many geysers and volcanoes. The reserve is vast, with trees few and far between, and the chilly climate keeps animal noise to a minimum, though you might encounter the occasional bear or two. Quietest Reserve was created in 1934, and its current boundary contains an area of 10,990 square kilometers, or 4,240 square miles. Its main purpose is as an area for the study of natural sciences. The variety of flora and fauna, as well as mountain ranges and both active and extinct volcanoes, make the reserve the perfect place to study everything from biology to chemistry to geology and everything in between. The area is so far removed from civilization you'll never see or hear a motor vehicle, including your own. That's because the reserve is so protected, you have to sign up with one of the few approved companies to shuttle you in on a helicopter. And that's if you're one of the lucky 3,000 people allowed to go per year. If you do manage to get past all the red tape to visit the reserve, be prepared to pay a fee equivalent to about $700 for a one-day trip. The Quietest Nature Reserve is the ideal spot for people who appreciate the idea that, statistically speaking, even if all 3,000 yearly visitors showed up on the same day, they'd still be separated from well over 99% of the rest of the people on Earth. If the icy climate isn't your idea of relaxing, head over to the Negev desert in Israel. Far from the bustling cities of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, this 13,000 square kilometer expanse of dust and sand makes up over 55% of the country's land area. If you trek further away from the road into the desert, you can hear your own ears ring from the silence. All you'll hear out there is the occasional breeze and the dirt crumbling underfoot. For some, the silence of the desert is the most strikingly spiritual experience of the Holy Land. Despite the desert's mostly harsh landscape, there are still a select few plant and animal species that thrive there. If you're patient and more than a little lucky, you might catch a glimpse of the endangered Arabian leopard, or the critically endangered Negev tortoise. The desert is definitely in stark contrast to the Quietest Reserve, with average temperatures in the warm season often exceeding 38 degrees Celsius, or 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're planning a trip to the Negev desert, be sure to go in the middle of summer to avoid as many people as possible and get a truly silent experience. Just remember to bring sunscreen. If the Quietest Reserve is too cold and the desert is too hot, consider Cenote in Tulum, Mexico. If you thought it was quiet above ground, wait till you experience this subterranean cave. Not only is this cave entirely devoid of sound, but it's also completely dark. If you're brave, turn out your headlamp and swim out into the pitch-black water of the cavern for the ultimate sensory deprivation experience. All you'll be able to hear is your own breathing and the occasional drop of water from the stalactites. Just keep in mind that while short-term sessions of sensory deprivation can be very relaxing and conducive to meditation, extended periods of sensory deprivation can result in extreme anxiety, hallucinations, bizarre thoughts, and depression. So if being totally alone and depressed in a subterranean cave doesn't sound like your idea of a good time, consider one of the other destinations on our list. And for the final stop on our trip, a man-made marvel called the Anechoic Chamber, located in Minnesota. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the chamber is 99.9% sound absorbent, earning it the title of the absolute quietest place on Earth. You enter the strange room through large, heavy vault-style doors. The chamber is constructed of a double layer of steel and foot-thick concrete, covered in crosshatch sound-absorbent buffers, and even the floor is suspended by mesh to avoid any sound from footsteps. Once the heavy doors close behind you, the noise level in the room drops to -9 decibels. By comparison, a library is usually around 30 decibels. Stephen Orfield, the lab founder, says he challenges people to sit in the room in the dark and see how long they can last. He says, when it's quiet, ears will adapt. The quieter the room, the more things you'll hear. You'll hear your heart beating. Sometimes you can hear your lungs, hear your stomach gurgling loudly. In the anechoic chamber, you become the sound. The longest anyone has lasted in the room is 45 minutes. Of course, the room isn't just for unsettling its visitors. When it's not being used as a torture chamber, it serves as a test room for manufacturers to gauge the volume of their components. It's a fascinating room, and quite the feat of sonic engineering, but not being able to enjoy the silence for more than a few minutes kind of defeats the purpose of our hypothetical trip. Still, for anyone interested in how the human body sounds in absolute silence, the anechoic chamber is a must-visit. So maybe there's such a thing as too quiet. But for anyone who wants the ultimate noise-free getaway, you've got your short list. These places are the absolute quietest on Earth. If you'd like to learn more about the places on this list, follow the links in the description. Remember to follow Second Thought on your favorite social media, and subscribe to keep up to date with the latest content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.